Uncle Jen, that's not good. Uncle Jen, something big happened. Auntie had just finished cooking dinner, and before Yi Feng could hold his chopsticks firmly, Kuei from the old Zhao family in the east of the village ran in from outside the yard. Guawazi, what are you yelling at? Your Uncle Jen is fine and planning to eat. You said that your Uncle Jen is not good. Even if he is not good, it's because you, Guawazi, are messing with the meal that he can't eat well. Kuei is Yi Feng's childhood friend, and he often comes to Uncle Jen's house. This kid is good at everything. He just likes to make noises when nothing happens, and he can make a fuss about big things for a long time. Uncle Lao Jen would occasionally be willing to quarrel with a child when his temperament improved. No, Uncle Lao Jen, vomiting blood, vomiting blood. Kuei had obviously run all the way over. At this time, he was a little out of breath. When Uncle Lao Jen choked, he couldn't explain clearly. He squatted on the ground and gasped for air. Shit, your dad just vomited blood. Uncle Jen gave Kuei an annoyed look. Kuei, what's going on? You need to take a breath before talking. Yi Feng saw that Kuei was not joking, so he quickly walked over and squatted next to Kuei, patting his back and helping him calm down. Yes, it's my dad. My dad vomited blood. Kuei finally uttered a complete sentence. What are you talking about? Your father really vomited blood? Fengzi, bring my uncle's medicine box. I have to go and take a look quickly. Zhao Laowen's health has always been good, why did he suddenly vomit blood? Uncle Lao Jen's his brows furrowed. Kuei didn't have a serious job, he just worked some crops. However, Zhao Laowen had some skills as a mason and was the main source of income for the Zhao family. If Lao Wei'er fell, the life of the family would be in jeopardy. Not having a good time. Oh. Yi Feng agreed, and stood up to go to the inner room to get the medicine box. Who knew that as soon as he stood up from the ground, he felt that the world was spinning, his body tilted, and he hit the wall next to him. His eyes were full of gold stars. Random risk. Fengzi, what's wrong with you? Auntie was startled by Yi Feng, and she quickly helped Yi Feng up from the ground with Kuei. Yi Feng's eyes were a little dazed, and he was obviously still dizzy, and there was a big swelling on his forehead. It's okay, Auntie, I'm okay. Yi Feng waved his hand to show that he was okay, and reached out to touch his head. The pain made him gasp, and immediately a big question mark appeared in his heart. A country boy with a strong skin, Yi Feng has never suffered from anemia or low blood pressure. This is the first time that he was knocked down as soon as he squatted down. Moreover, how could he get bumps when his head hits the wall? When I was fighting with those gangsters in the afternoon, even if the steel pipe hit me, it wouldn't be a big deal. How come I got bumped when I hit the wall? At home, you help Fengzi go back to the house to rest. I'll go with Kuei to see Lao Wei'er first. This illness can't be delayed. Uncle Lao Jen gave the order, and he went into the house and carried the medicine box to follow Kuei. Kuei leaves. I'm fine, uncle. I'll follow and take a look. When Yi Feng raised his hand to rub the big bump on his head, he felt the heat coming out of his dantian again and swirling in his body, but this time the heat flow was obviously many times weaker than before, like hair. Yi Feng was a smart boy. After recalling the contents of the book, he immediately understood what was going on. This heat flow was not something from Yi Feng himself, but flowed into his body from the outside world. Yi Feng didn't pay attention to it before, and he didn't use the Qingtian heart method in Qingtian suicide note to refine and absorb it. For heat flow, Yi Feng's body is just a container. Even if it is not used, this energy will gradually dissipate and disappear as time goes by. What's more, this energy was stimulated in the afternoon, making Yi Feng fool for a while. Superboy, by this time, was almost exhausted. Moreover, the kind of explosion that relies on external force is obviously harmful to the body, otherwise it would not be dizzy. But Erkue was Yi Feng's disciple after all, so he had to follow him to see what happened. He could only wait until he came back later and then use the Qing Tian heart technique to refine this last trace of warmth. The three of them hurried all the way to Erkue's house. Erkue's sister Xinlan was sitting by the bed and watching Zhao Laowen shed tears on the bed. Zhao Laowen was lying on the bed coughing non-stop. "Uncle Lao Zhen, Brother Fengzi, you are here." Seeing Yi Feng and his party coming in, Xinlan immediately stood up, wiped her tears, and gave up her seat next to the bed to Uncle Lao Zhen. Xinlan is 17 years old this year. She is quite well-born and is still in high school in the town. She is a very lovable girl. Zhao Laowen's daughter-in-law died early. Xinlan has been helping to take care of the family like a little adult since she was a child. Everyone who meets her praises her for her sensibleness. I said, "Lao Weier, what's wrong with you?" Uncle Lao Zhen came to the bed and looked at Zhao Laowen. He saw that Zhao Laowen's face was as white as paper, and there were bloodshot eyes hanging from the corners of his mouth. He looked at Lao General Shuguang, opened his mouth and was speechless. "Erkue, get your dad some hot water." "Xinlan, what happened to your father?" "Yi Feng has a big head. Erkue always likes to yell and can't say anything clearly. Zhao Laowen can't say it. Fortunately, there is Xinlan, otherwise he would have to hold him back. Die. Brother Fengzi, my father made third aunt angry." Speaking of this, Xinlan also had a trace of anger on his face. "What? Third aunt?" Third aunt is a famous matchmaker in the village. She often helps people find matchmakers and pull their hair. Zhao Laowen has such a temper that he can't get anything out of him. How can third aunt be so angry with him? "Well, third aunt came to our house just now to propose marriage to Wang Baiwan's family. My father didn't agree. As a result, third aunt said that if I don't marry and go to the Wang family, let us immediately pay back the 50,000 yuan we owe their family." My father was so anxious and angry that he vomited blood just as he drove Sangu out. Xinlan gritted his teeth. Wang Baiwan's family came to propose marriage. Wang Xiaosaner. Isn't he only 12 years old? His hair has not even grown. It's such a shame to propose a marriage. Yi Feng spat on the ground next to him, as if he was mentioning Wang Baiwan. The name made him feel dirty. Wang Wanwan, whose real name is Wang Yukai, is the richest man in Longfeng village. His family runs several large breeding farms. Wang Youcai's ancestors were also farmers who worked hard in the countryside. When it came to his generation, they were not willing to toil in the village for a lifetime, so they took a burden and went out to make a living in the big cities. It happened to be China's reform and opening up at that time. He caught up with the good times and made his first pot of gold in a big city. The fallen leaves were about to return to their roots. Wang Yukai had some money and wanted to come back to do some hard work, so he set up a large pig farm in the village. At that time, people's living standards had just improved, and pork was also in short supply. From then on, Wang Yukai gradually became prosperous. In the 1990s, he already had millions in assets, so he was called Wang Wanwan by the villagers. Up to now, Wang Wanwan's assets are said to have exceeded tens of millions. In addition to expanding the pig farm several times, he has also opened a chicken farm and a rabbit farm. The business is booming throughout Sangfeng County. They are all considered number one. But I don't know if it's because of money. When Wang Baiwan first came back to the village, he was fine and was kind and friendly to everyone he met. But as the money got more and more, his heart became worse and worse, sometimes even they all don't recognize their relatives. Relying on the power he developed with money, he ran rampant in the village. Some villagers saw that he had made a fortune raising these things and wanted to follow him. Instead of helping the villagers, Wang Wanwan obstructed him in every possible way, not allowing familiar suppliers to use breeding pigs, breeding rabbits, etc. He sells them to the villagers. When someone comes to the village to collect these livestock, once someone wants to sell them, he will try his best to lower the price so that they can't sell them. In addition, he used various means to enclose many good lands in the village to expand his own breeding farm. As a result, Wang Wanwan's business grew bigger and bigger, but instead of benefiting the villagers, they were bullied by him. Behind his back, everyone called him Wang Haixin. Wang Wanwan has 3 sons, the youngest one is named Wang Changsho. Wang Changsho is a very ugly boy. He is born with a short nose, protruding teeth, and a ferocious face. He looks a bit like a tiger. However, contrary to his appearance, this boy has not been very talkative since he was a child. He is surprisingly timid and cannot be kicked with 3 legs. The kind that comes out of nowhere. Originally, this was nothing. Even if he was a coward, no one in the village would mess with him. But 4 years ago, when he was 8 years old, he suddenly developed a high fever. After the fever subsided, he began to suffer from hysteria from time to time. Once he gets sick, the usually coward suddenly turns into a stupid bully, yelling at the top of his voice, hitting everyone and smashing things regardless of time or occasion. Wang Wanwan took his son to the big hospital in the city several times, but the doctors in the city did nothing to cure Wang Changsho's hysteria. They just prescribed some sedative drugs for him to take. The Wang Xiaoshan that Yi Feng mentioned was Wang Changsho. However, Xinlan shook her head with a strange look on her face. Brother Fengzi, if Wang Xiaoshan proposed marriage, my father wouldn't be so angry. Third aunt is here today, to propose marriage to Wang Lao's Hun. What? Wang Lao's Hun? That's nonsense. Uncle Jen, who was listening by the bed, almost gasped for breath. Who is Wang Lao's Hun? He is Wang Wanwan's biological father. This year he's already 84, and he actually asked his third aunt to propose marriage to Xinlan, who was still too young to be his granddaughter. Isn't this nonsense? What a sin, what a sin. Zhao Laowei finally spoke after Kuei helped him up and leaned against the bedside to drink some water. Wang Lao's Hun is 84 years old this year. He is not in good health. I don't know where the Wang family hired a husband. I went to the house and took a look. I must say that the old man is in trouble. I was rash and thought about this. Canner, you have to be happy, but as a result, that bastard Wang Baiwan is targeting our Xinlan. After hearing this, Uncle Lao Zhen sighed softly and looked at each other with Yi Feng, both seeing a bit of anger and helplessness in the other's eyes. Zhao Laowen contracted tuberculosis 3 years ago. In order to treat his illness, he borrowed 40,000 yuan from Wang Wanwan. However, his family was not making a living, so he never repaid the loan. With the interest, it has now become 50,000 yuan. The Wang family came to them and made it very clear, either give them money or give them money. Uncle Lao Zhen, third aunt, said that if I refuse to marry, they will go to court and say that if we don't pay back the money we owe, my father will be imprisoned for more than 10 years. Xinlan said, and burst into tears. Too much bullying. Yi Feng turned around and punched the wall next to him. However, as he turned around, Yi Feng was stunned. He saw a few long yams thrown on the ground next to him emitting a very faint light. Girl, don't cry, this matter is all on me. A smile appeared on Yi Feng's cheek. In the final analysis, the Zhao family's problem is still about money. If it weren't for Wang Wanwan's money, there would be no need to take the marriage proposal seriously. In the past, Yi Feng would have been helpless, but now, as long as he uses his brain, the money problem is actually not difficult to solve. Yi Feng told Kuei that there was no need to worry about this matter. If he delayed it for a few days, he would be able to give Kuei an explanation. Then he rushed home and locked himself in the hut. Sitting cross-legged on the bed, Yi Feng closed his eyes and rested his mind and hugged Yuan Shi according to the Qing Tian heart method. He felt the heat in his dantian that was almost dissipated and used his mind to guide it to circulate in his meridians according to the Qing Tian heart method. This warm current was swimming around randomly on its own before. When it was first guided, it was really a bit disobedient. Yifeng gritted his teeth and caught up with this moment. No matter what, he had to refine this warm current today. Yes, because the open eyes state is absolutely crucial in his next plan. After sitting for more than an hour, with Yifeng's continuous efforts, the small warm current gradually began to move in the direction guided by his thoughts, slowly traveling along the meridians around his body. While walking around, Yifeng vaguely felt that something in his meridians was gradually integrating into the warm current. This integration not only stabilized the warm current, but also gradually strengthened his control over the warm current. Yifeng is also very lucky. The amount of warmth in his body now is not as much as 1/10 of the original amount. It is precisely because of this that he can gradually use his mind to guide this warmth to refine it. If it is the earliest one, even if he meditates for a week, it may not have any effect. From a certain perspective, the guys with triangle eyes did a good thing. When the rooster crows outside, Yifeng finally fully controls the warmth and makes it his own. No, it should no longer be called warm current, but internal power. Of course, as a feng shui master, Yifeng's internal power is different from the internal power in martial arts novels. Although it can also strengthen the body, more aspects are reflected in it. On his senses. The moment he finished refining and opened his eyes, Yifeng felt that the whole world was a little clearer than before. For example, the stench on his body was usually bearable, but now he almost vomited it out. The process of refining internal energy also had an effect on his body similar to that of cleansing muscles and cutting marrow. Now Yifeng's body was covered in foul-smelling black sludge, and he was in a miserable state. Taking advantage of the fact that it was still dark, Yifeng grabbed 2 pieces of changing clothes and sprinted towards the small river ditch beside the village at a speed of 100 meters. The river water in early spring was still exuding a biting chill, which froze Yifeng, who jumped in desperately. Fortunately, Yifeng was smart and used his meager internal energy to re-enter the river. After finally enduring the cold, I started to cleanse my body. Regarding the affairs of the Zhao family, Yifeng's thoughts are not complicated. After refining the warm current, he can maintain his open eye state. He still has 500 left from the money he paid for the 5 emperors before. It's not too much, not too much. There is really nothing he can do to pick up this little money in the antique street, but he can definitely pick it up in the village. Many families in rural areas have some old objects, but few people have the concept of antiques. It happens all the time that blue and white porcelain is used as a cat food bowl. Yifeng has no expertise in antiques, but his eyes can make any expert step aside. It is said that things become better over time. When something is older, its aura will naturally become stronger than ordinary ones. All Yifeng has to do is take a quick glance at these things, buy them, and then go to the county town to sell them at a good price. With his wishful thinking in mind, the river water seemed much gentler. Yifeng was washing the dirt on his body while humming a little tune. It was really a bit comfortable that way. Suddenly, a small wind blew over. The clean clothes Yifeng brought were hung on the branches by the river. When they were blown by the wind, their pants actually fell into the river and floated down the current. Yifeng quickly made a sudden move. He swam towards the pants in the water. Although the river was not fast, he had already swam more than 10 meters when he grabbed his pants. When he turned around and planned to go upstream, Yifeng's eyes inadvertently glanced at the riverside. This moment made him stunned. It turned out that under an old tree by the river, a green glistening light was coming from the ground. The light came out continuously, and the light was as strong as Yimatsu's string of 5 emperor's coins. Yifeng couldn't help but swallowed a mouthful of saliva. He really didn't expect that such a place would have good things. At the moment, I didn't even care about walking upstream. I scrambled ashore and ran to the old tree. The cyan light seemed to be contracting and relaxing at an extremely slow rhythm, just like a person breathing slowly. Maybe it's still a living thing. While talking to himself, Yi Feng found a piece of stone from the ground and dug it into the place where the light was the strongest. The ground in March had not yet thawed, so it was not easy to dig with stones. Fortunately, Yi Feng had internal strength to support him. Although his strength was not as strong as when he was playing gangsters, it was no problem to dig a pit or something. After digging a few stones, he dug out a small hole about the same size and depth as a tourist shoe. After removing the floating soil, Yi Feng discovered that there was a round hole the size of a copper coin inside. It was dark and he didn't know what was underneath. With the small round hole as the center, he dug down a few inches deeper. When a stone fell down, a large piece of soil at the bottom of the pit fell down. It turned out that there was a hole in the ground about the size of half a water tank, but when Yi Feng saw clearly what was inside the hole, when something happened, he immediately screamed, "Oh my God!" in fright, leaned back and sat on the ground. After sitting for a full minute and seeing no movement, Yi Feng rubbed his weak legs and stood up, sticking his head out to make sure what he saw before was true. This underground cavity turned out to be a worm nest. Looking from above, it is densely packed with long worms. There are yellow and black krites, black and white krites, brown and black snakes, emerald green bamboo leaves, almost all the snakes that Yi Feng has seen in this pit. What's even weirder is that these snakes are not coiled like fire hoses as usual, but are entangled with each other around the same center of the circle. The one they use as the center of the circle is a golden snake. Little snake. This is the only coiled snake in the entire snake pit. It is only more than half a foot long. In addition to its golden scales, there is a small protrusion on the top of the snake's head, which looks like it has a small horn. Yi Feng felt his heart beating wildly. No wonder the cyan light here was so powerful. There was a one-horned golden dragon in the underground snake pit. Qing Tian's Suicide Notes, chapter on strange beasts says, the one-horned golden dragon covers the head of a group of snakes. Its color is golden, its aura is green, and there are scales and horns on the snake's head like a dragon. Since the beginning of the world, there have been a group of snakes guarding them. The snakes are extremely venomous but very useful. The body-clearing and solid yuan pill prepared from its gallbladder can resolve all kinds of poisons, clear away serious illnesses, improve eyesight and soothe the liver, and has been regarded as an imperial product. There may be Jiao Dan in his brain, which is a wonderful medicine for destroying evil spirits in the house. If you want to sleep, someone will give you a pillow. With this one-horned golden dragon, there is no need to go around searching for antiques like a second-rate dealer. Yi Feng broke off a branch from the tree next to him and carefully picked up the one-horned golden dragon from the snake pit. It was also March day. Although the one-horned golden dragon was extremely poisonous, it still needed to be treated like an ordinary snake. It hibernated like a human, and had no reaction until it was placed on the pants soaked by the river water. At this time, Yi Feng no longer cared about whether he had washed himself. He went to the river and dipped his pants in some more river water. He found the clothes he had taken off along the river bank, grabbed them and ran towards Erkue's house, which was relatively close. After banging on the door, Zhao Xinlan rubbed her sleepy eyes and opened the door. Then there was a scream and a bang, and the door panel almost hit Yi Feng in the face. Yi Feng was also so excited that he forgot that he was only wearing a pair of tight-fitting shorts. Seeing him like this, Xinlan, a young girl, would be weird if she didn't take a picture of him. After scrambling, Yi Feng finally put on the pants that were still stained with grease. At this time, Erkue opened the door and came out. Seeing Yi Feng's look, he immediately laughed heartlessly. I said, Fengzi, you kid didn't go out to break shoes to see if a man was not at home, so someone caught you. Why are you hiding in a water tank when you look at me like this? Go away, you don't want your sister to marry Wang Lao's Hun, so go work for me. Yi Feng was blushing because of what happened just now. Seeing that Erkue still dared to tease him, he gave a violent shudder. On Erkue's head. Long worms are very vengeful things. Although they are all in hibernation at the moment, there is no guarantee that the sun in March will wake them up. If the long worms in this hole are left alone, there is no guarantee that they will wake up tomorrow. Uncle Jen's house became a nest of insects. Yi Feng explained the location of the snake pit to Kuei clearly, and asked him to bring kerosene and burn all the long insects with a fire. Then he returned to Uncle Jen's house, changed into clean clothes, and killed the snakes for their bile. The one-horned golden dragon is called Jiao, and it is actually just a special snake. The whole process is not very complicated, but the snake is not very bold, only half the size of a knuckle, and the dragon pill in the snake's head is only the size of a soybean grain. There is nothing that can be done about it. After all, this is still a small snake. It would be nice to have a pill. As a barefoot doctor, it is natural that Uncle Jen's house would have a casserole with herbs and the like. Yi Feng took a casserole, washed it, broke out the snake gallbladder, threw it into the casserole, and then followed the recipe for Qingti Gu Yuan Dan in the Qingtian suicide note: pour in the ground tangerine peel, Sichuan clam, pinelia, aroids and other medicinal materials, add 3 bowls of water, and put them on a small stove to simmer. Whether Zhao Xinlan marries Wang Laoshun or not depends on this.